Today we are going to build this planter bench. I'm going to use PL Premium to glue a lot of the structure together because I like to build things heavy duty if I can. I use a little bit of Type Bond 3 just to put on the trim, and I use screws to put on the decking here, and I put clamps on the planters when the PL was drying, and they're rock solid now. The whole thing consists of 5 deck boards, 5 fence boards, and I used a pressure treated fence board just to do the bottoms because nobody's ever going to see it. It's cheaper. You don't have to make it out of cedar like I did. You can make it out of pressure treated. I just wanted it to look really nice. If you want to see how to do the profile, you're going to link to the video after. And this is about all that's left over from building the whole thing. All right, now let's get to it. Okay, we're going to break this down into easy to digest pieces. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make 8 legs. So I got 2 complete deck boards on the table there ready to go. We're just going to cut them all at 23.5, and then we'll take them to the table saw. All right, now I am going to have to do a bunch of these, so I'm going to put a stop block in. Not only for efficiency, but you want all the legs to be exactly the same length. Okay, so just take one of your leg pieces and just set it there to use as to hold it there so it's easy to put together. Okay, now any squeeze out, we're gonna get off of there as best as we can, and then after it dries, we're gonna sand it and make sure that it's all nice and evened out. Okay, after the camera guy left yesterday, I decided I was gonna put clamps on these because the brad nails weren't holding it as tight as I would like, so I used up most of my clamps to clamp them all in, and it created some squeeze out, which is good. And then I just used a plastic bladed razor blade scraper, and after a couple hours, it got a little bit hard. I just went along and I just scraped it off like that. If you let it really harden, you won't be doing that. But if you let it harden a little bit, then it comes off quite nicely. So that's just a tip for you. Okay, so let's get the clamps off and put it together. So now I'm going to cut the front, the back, and the sides for the planter boxes. I'm using fence boards for this. And I'm going to put the profile on them after I get them cut to length. So we need 8 of them at 14 inches and 8 of them at 12 3/4 inches. The most efficient way to cut them is to cut 4 14s out of a board and a 12 3/4, and it doesn't leave a lot of excess. And then so we're going to do that for the first 2 boards, and then the rest of them I'm just going to cut at 12 3/4 until I get them done. All right, now we're going to put the profile on them. You see our video on that. Make sure you separate your boards. So we're going to call these ones the top ones, these ones the bottom ones, because you have to do the profile differently on them. Of course, if you don't want to do the profile, then just skip this whole step. Okay, so just make sure you pair up all your boards. I did write on them. I had them kind of matched up before I put them through the saw. So there's a T1 on here and there's a B1 on here. So those two obviously go together. So make sure you get them the way you want them. And then we're just going to build this like any basic planter. All right, so when you go to assemble it, have it this way around so the one with more meat is up. Long ones go in first because The shorter ones are going to be butting up against it. So we're going to have a nice square planter, so that's how you do it. Making sure to keep the adhesive to the inside to avoid any extra spill out. And do that 3 more times. So I'm going to take our leftover piece here and I'm going to cut it into strips at 1 5/8. You might be able to do 1 3/4 for yours, just my boards are a little bit narrower. They're 5 1/4, they're not 5 1/2. 11 1/2 inch pieces going on the bottom here before we put the boxes together because it's just much easier that way. I'm just using screws for this step here because this is where all the weight's going to be for the soil, so just want to make sure it grabs really good. You have the glue grab really, well. At this point, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put some clamps on it and let it set up for a couple hours, just to hold everything nice and tight together, which is what I'm going to do. There's a gap there. Do that. I am using pressure treated lumber for the bottom because nobody's going to see it and it costs a lot less, well, about half as much. And I'm just putting wood preservative on the ends that I cut so it will last longer. Cut them in half because I don't like putting 8-footers through the table saw unless I absolutely have to. Okay, I'm just using a 2x4 as a spacer. Okay, so for this last part, the reason why this is 46 is so that a 48-inch board will sit in here with a cross brace to keep it from wanting to do the splits if you lift it. You can also do an angle, but if you look at the garage over there, my angle finder's in there someplace, and I really don't want to have to find it for this, so I'm taking the easy way out. Okay, so we have 9 inches, so 4.5. Okay, so I'm basically just eyeballing this, but the gap between them was about 1/4 of an inch. So if you have something that's 1/4 of an inch, like a pencil or something, just use it as a spacer. Okay, so these are ripped at 2.5 inches. These are fence boards. I rounded them over with the sander, and then they are cut to 12 3/4 on the inside, 45-degree angles. Just make sure that they line up, and then glue them down and fasten them. Teak oil. All right, and there we have it. In my area, I will be able to sell this for about $325 just because it's cedar, Canadian of course. If I made it out of pressure treated, probably about $250. It is expensive to build, but it obviously has a higher price tag attached to it. It's not hard to build if you kind of break it down into bite-sized pieces. Overall, it's a bit of a pain. It's going to take you an afternoon to do it, but none of it's hard. All right, so all the tools used for this are going to be linked in the description down below. Please like, subscribe, click the notification. Tell us how much you think that it's going to be worth in your area. And if you want to see more content like this, just click one of those boxes.